Earlier today, my friend Ben Brimmer, I call him Brim, arrived here in Madeira. We're both taking on Madeira Island Ultra Trail 115 on Saturday, which is a 118 kilometre, 6,700 metres vert ultra. It's currently Thursday, 24th of April. The episode that you're listening to right now will hopefully be released on Friday, and the race will start at midnight and go into the weekend. So I thought it'd be really cool to basically just head up to a trail here in Madeira with Brim and find a spot to record a conversation with him about how he's preparing for tomorrow's beast of a race, and to talk a little bit about his ultra running journey for the past few years. So we headed up one of these levadas into the mountains, and we tried to find a suitable location. We ended up actually going through some pretty sketchy caves on the edge of a sheer drop, so almost didn't make it, to be honest. But eventually we did find a good spot and set up a camera. You can hear the water flowing from the levada in the background, but I do hope you get used to that white noise. I really enjoyed this conversation. Brim's a really good friend of mine and a fellow ultra runner and outdoors enthusiast. It was actually quite funny to sit down and record a conversation about the things that we usually chat about anyway. Brim opens up about his experience chasing goals to the point of hospitalisation, self-worth and perspective shift, the reasons we love this game. We talked a lot about his unique journey with nutrition and fueling during endurance efforts and much more. So, without further ado, here's me and my friend Brim on the edge of a cliff next to a levada in Madeira.
Well, it's good to be alive.
It's great to be alive. Look at where we are. We've just taken an insane route. That was dodgy. Almost died.
Yeah, on some sort of aqueduct route that had no bars and no barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah, just glad that I can see my family, I think.
But yeah, what have you... What time did you arrive today?
Lunchtime-ish, maybe a bit earlier. Me and Morgan got in, and yeah, we just picked up the car, went to see you at the beach, and yeah, here we are on a little taper run.
And dude, I was thinking it was funny, every time, at least like almost every year, like towards the beginning of the year or towards the end of a year, I'll get a message from you saying, I'm looking at this race, or I'm looking at this race, and I'm usually, I haven't planned enough.
Yeah.
And so I end up just doing a race that you've sort of highlighted to me.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of worked out because you were looking for like a B race, I think, and yeah. I was like, I knew I was already moving to Portugal at the time, and I was like, man, this race looks so cool.
Yeah.
Like, just to be on an island, firstly, like going over the mountains is just like, it's awesome. And yeah, I'm always just like, okay, Tommy, what do you think?
Yeah.
Come on.
We got a group. What's the group chat from? Trans Gran Canaria.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got that group chat, and we throw ultra stuff in there. But we started Val d'Aran.
Yeah.
Val d'Aran was the first, like, I guess, ultra we sort of did together.
Yeah.
And then TGC.
Yeah.
And
that
now
was
this.
a fun one. Yeah. And we got a little relay coming up as well.
Yeah, we got Enduro 24. Yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've just moved to Portugal. Where exactly have you moved to?
Cascais, so just outside of Lisbon.
Yeah.
Like near Sintra, if you know the national park.
And so you've been getting like decent. We were just saying you've been getting decent training in.
Yeah, it's super fun. There's just like a 30k loop pretty much, like from the house that goes directly into the national park, and every weekend it's just going in up and down the hills, just getting in like nutrition training and saying hello to all the donkeys and the goats and giving them carrots and things. It's like, it's pretty funny. I saw a goat get born two weeks ago.
What, on a trail run?
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Honestly, like 500 meters from my house, and there was like the mother goat still had the umbilical cord out, and the little baby goat was just like full of just like, it was soaking from whatever, and I was like, I can't believe I live here. You're
not gonna get that in Victoria Park.
No, Hatfield Heath doesn't have that kind of thing.
Yeah, and we know each other because we've lived in London together. So your training has gone from like London based, I guess, like a lot of flat training, trying to get as much mountains in as possible, to actually being surrounded by trails, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think living in London, you probably have the same thing. Like, you really have to get creative to actually prepare for mountains, whether that's on like a stair stepper or you just go out of London or whatever. And like, I feel more fortunate now that I don't have to be as creative. You can just kind of like go out the door, which is really fun. But still, I mean, like you still need to get the gym in and all of these things, which is like the essentials are still the same. You know?
Do you feel happier?
Yeah, I honestly like. I think I have definitely like the least amount of pressure going into this race, like, and that does make me happy going into it. I think a few years ago when I started doing ultras and all of these things, there was maybe an expectation of like you're not enough until you do it.
Yeah.
And that creates a certain pressure and expectation, and maybe you don't realize, but you're actually getting maybe a bit like anxious and all of these things. And yeah, I went through like quite a hard period like last summer, and coming out of it sort of realizing that, you know, like you're already enough, whether you complete the race or not. You have the lifestyle and you're like good to people and you like live your values or whatever, you're already there. And I went through a period also like at the beginning of this year where feeling like, you know what, like you are enough and you can do all of these things and you're a good person. Like you don't, I was like, do I even need running? And I went for a couple of weeks where I didn't run for like 2 weeks. And I was like, it was just a pure curiosity where I was like, why? And I was like, I felt like maybe I was a bit scared of like losing my main reason for running, which is to like prove something. And then I realized after a while that there are so many things to run for beyond like trying to prove that you're enough, like running for joy, running for adventure, curiosity, like all of these things are just as motivating. And if you can make them like the crux of your like attitude towards it, I've now had this full training block being, you know, happy, energized, and coming into it being like, I'm just happy to shoot my shot.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just happy to be here. You get to the start line happy, and whatever happens, happens, but the actual outcome is not the point, you know? And that takes a load of pressure off, and it just makes you just happier in general, you know?
Well, to be fair, like whenever, well, you've always struck me as someone, despite, I guess, what you've been battling with internally, and we can all fall victim of that, you've always struck me as someone who has been like adventure first, curiosity first. You're the one who's looking up all these races. You are pretty in tune with the ultra space and what's going on, and that's because it's interest first, right? Like very much.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, yeah, it always is that, but I think there's always a part of it, particularly when you like the curiosity to try and do your first race or something like this. I think there's always an element of like, can I do it?
Yeah.
And if you get sucked into that a little too much, you can get sucked into I'm not enough until, and that's like quite dangerous. And I think, yeah, we're not there anymore. And nice. Yeah, curiosity first, as I feel like that is very much your spirit as well.
What do you think has really been the change then? Like, have you just done a lot of work on yourself, and what's transformed that perspective for you?
Yeah, I mean, like there are honestly like therapy, counseling.
Yeah,
like really helps.
Nice.
Just to like
funny that
strip back a lot of layers of like who you are and realize like what you're doing things for.
Yeah.
And then just being happier in general makes you look at things differently. And I think I was always like running for maybe a reason that was pushing me in a certain way that wasn't like totally healthy. Not that I was ever like super unhealthy in any way mentally, but like then when you realize, you know what, it's like, it's okay, like you are enough. You know, I've ended up in hospital a couple of times with these races.
Yeah.
Because the stomach issues are a real like real crux for me in my running. That also puts things into perspective when you have to say, okay, well, I didn't do it. Like, what is my worth?
Yeah.
And your worth is exactly the same before as it is after, no matter what happens, because you're a human being, you know.
Well, one thing that's interesting is that you will always have your own little narrative of what's going on and how you might be perceived or how you perceive yourself. But one thing I've always really respected is, although you've had these stomach issues, which we'll get into, you've always come back. You've always wanted to go back, and you've been very patient throughout this entire process, really working on what is it? Why am I having such issues? Like, it went from having issues on a 100k race to having issues when you go out and do like a half marathon. Like, there was a big story to it. And so, like, what keeps you what keeps you coming back? Why, if you've got this issue that seems like it's something that at least it did seem like it's something you could never overcome, what keeps you coming back to these massive races?
Yeah, I think it changes over time, but like there is just like a pure love for like the community and the adventure, like
The vibes,
basically. Yeah, like you do these events and they are wild. Like the first one I did was the half marathon de Sable, which was 4 days in the Fuerteventura desert, camping overnight, carrying all your own equipment. And it was me and a few friends that did it. And like we were just living in the desert for 4 days.
Yeah.
And we were just playing cards in the evening, and then during the day just doing these like epic races across like soft sand and all these things. And you're just like, this is so fascinating. Like it's so cool. And then to have that kind of restricted by my stomach, I always, in these races, whenever that happened, never felt like I'd really fully given like my all. And I think that's another part of it, which is like I know there's more. You know, I think I've yet to have like a perfect race, which probably doesn't exist, but like in a sense where you're like, you know what, I really gave that everything, and I can really be proud. Like there's always been something, and maybe there will always be something, but like to have those issues and then be like, okay, but you know what, like it could be even more fascinating and cool, and then just to get the vibes of the community and everyone, like it's just a very fun thing to do ultimately.
Yeah, and you've always had more in the legs. That's probably the most frustrating thing, is like I think it was it Val d'Aran? I feel like it might have been Val d'Aran where I might be wrong about the race, but you were, your stomach was turning and you were having a real issue at one of the aid stations, and they were sort of like, okay, you might need to stop, and then you went for a bit of a jog, sort of, or did a bit of a loop, and then came back, and then you weren't really perfect, but you were like, I'm just gonna carry on.
I mean, that happens in most of them. But in Gran Canaria, I think it was where I was, the overall race was like 85k, and at about 70 at the last aid station, I was like gradually on a decline until like nothing was going in that was making me throw up. Got there, and without realizing, one of the aid station staff came up to me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, yeah, why are you asking? And then just projectile vomited like on the floor like 3 times. And I was like, okay, I think I need to sit down. I sat down for like 20 minutes, had some warm soup, and at that point there was like 15k left. And I was like, you've come this far and you've got to do it. And like, after about 20 minutes, legs are kind of okay, but a soup getting in, and just crawled it into the finish basically. And I mean, it feels good to finish. It doesn't feel as good when you don't finish, but sometimes I haven't had the option. Like there's been a couple times when I basically just ended up in hospital because I've just been throwing up. It happened the first time in the Snowdonia 50k, and I was just throwing up by the end, and I couldn't stop throwing up, and they gave me like an injection to stop throwing up, and I just carried on throwing up, and then I had to get an IV drip in the hospital. Whoa. And stay overnight, and that was just so boring because you're just like sitting there overnight and all of these things, but ultimately necessary. And at that point you also have to like check yourself and be like, it's all well and good doing these things that you like, but health first also.
So tell the story, because I actually don't think, do you want some of this? I actually don't think that I mean, we've chatted throughout the process as mates, we've chatted about your issues going into these races with nutrition and with your stomach issues and stuff, and you've been strategizing, but tell the like full story of how it happened. Like you were running, everything was fine, and then was there like a race where it just went south? What's the
so to be honest, I do have a tendency to throw up in these races, and I think I've always had like quite a sensitive stomach, which I didn't realize. I've always been sort of like very gel first, for better or worse, and it's never really been an issue until Val d'Aran, which was the 100k, where that was the first time it properly got bad and I DNF'd, and I was like, I did not know how to handle it. And when you go into that dark space, and I was like, couldn't get out. But then it kind of got a bit better, and then all of a sudden last year it kept happening earlier and earlier. The Snowdonia 50k, which was, I think it was like 9 hours in, and I was spent by the end of it. Went to hospital, did a couple trail marathons, and was still throwing up after like 3 hours. And then we're just doing some trail runs. And I remember the earliest was like an hour and a half in, just on the Lee Valley Canal.
Right.
And I was just going flat, and I was just like trying to eat things because that's what the whole point of practicing. And I was just like, just throwing up, and I was like, this is weird. And it got to a point then when I was like, this trajectory is just not helpful.
It's the wrong way.
It's the wrong way, yeah. So I got in touch with a nutritionist called Paul, and super helpful, real.
He knows what he's doing, so he's worked with.
He knows what he's
best,
doing.
right?
He's worked with the best, he's got all the qualifications. Very experienced guy. He's done UTMB, all of these things.
And to name drop, he's worked with Tom Evans. Is that
He
right?
has some connections.
Pretty cool.
There. Yeah, cool guy. And yeah, I was just told him the story, and he's like, right, okay, there's like a few things we need to do. We need to basically track how I eat for like a week or 2 weeks to understand what's going on, and start measuring myself and my weight and how much water I'm drinking and all of these things. And a few key things to change were just like the amount of protein I was getting in. I am vegetarian, and I was just I was just not getting enough protein.
Yeah.
So he was like, instantly, we've got to bump that up. And then we started just trying to basically tick off all of the different possible things it could be. So it's like, right, okay, stomach issues. Like, is your stomach gut health good enough? So then we just started taking some multivitamins and a bunch of other things, just trying to get the gut healthy.
Yeah.
And we basically started on a training plan that was exclusively gut related. So in the same way, a lot of training plans will have like 30-mile mileage and then 40, and then you drop to like 35, and then you gradually increase. It's like that, but it was carbs per hour for your runs. So I would start off and do like 30 carbs per hour, and then the next week it was 40 carbs, and then you drop it down a bit, and you basically keep going up.
That's so interesting.
Because the gut is a muscle, just like anything else, and you train it. And you've got like elite ultra runners like David Roche. If you know him, he trained with eaters. There's people that just eat loads of food.
Right.
And his strategy was, I want to learn how these like big eaters eat and then apply that. And so that's what he was doing. So you've really got to train it like anything else. And it took a while. But the other thing we need to look at is what I was actually putting in my body, because I had just very blindly just taken gels all the time. And I've tried so many different gels, and obviously every person is different, but I was like, gels are like scientifically made, like they've got to work. But ultimately what ended up happening was realizing that actually I just need natural foods, and those are things like potatoes, rice, Cliff Bars I can get away with, and then the stomach issues kind of stopped happening. So I was having these kind of like little rice balls, like egg fried rice balls and these sorts of things, but you just wrap them up in just in cling film. It didn't really work, and then I needed to figure out a way to basically carry just like tons of rice basically. And what ended up happening was Morgan suggested, ice pops you had when you were a kid?
Yeah.
There's like long ones that were like kind of clear. We basically bought a ton of them. Yeah. And before my long runs now, I will have, I'll make some egg fried rice, put in some honey and some soy sauce. Shout out to Jason Coop, who has that kind of like recipe, but he has them in balls. Yeah. But a ball is like 10 grams of carbs, and I need like a 40 gram to have a go. And so I make these egg fried rice in batch, and then it takes so long, but before a run I will then be scooping in with my spoon into these like ice pop things.
That's so funny.
And I now have my little rice tubes that
Amazing.
I have, and I will keep them in my back pocket, and then every hour I will just I'll basically just eat it, and I'll just be eating natural foods. And I was always a bit cautious because like it's a lot of actual food, and how are you going to digest it? But my body just responds to real food. which, you know, sounds very obvious when you say it out loud. But I basically have those, and then I will also just make my own drink mix, which is fructose and dextrose in a powder with water, and is wildly cheaper than buying any brand and has exactly the amount of carbs that I need. So I know I get a 60 gram of carbs in a flask, and I know I've got 40 grams in my back pocket, and I'll have one of those and maybe like half a water flask per hour, 60 grams of carbs an hour, and there you are.
And that's essentially it. So the big shift was going from like highly processed, different food to we got some visitors.
Yeah.
Sorry, feel free to.
Did you run all the way here?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Well, we didn't run. We walked the dodgy bit.
We're just praying, walked the dodgy bits, and then we ran the rest of it.
Yeah.
But you will run the marathon?
Yeah,
tomorrow. Yeah.
Wait, is it tomorrow?
Starts midnight between tomorrow and Saturday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is 180?
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah.
From where to where?
It's from the northwest to the southeast, all the way across. Yeah.
The one that people do hiking with the tent also.
That's it. Yeah. A lot of people do the through hike. Yeah.
Yeah. Just in one go.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah, you can go through. I mean,
there is a fence there, so this is kind of the end of the.
Yeah, just like.
Yeah, we plan to come to the end and go back.
Yeah,
Back down.
it's sketchy, isn't it? Dodgy.
Yeah, in the past they don't have the rail.
Right.
4 years ago, or 3 years ago, they don't have
Really?
the rail. And then both sides you can just.
Yeah,
So it was.
bit scary.
Here you have to be careful. But that's why they close us in there, because this one many times rock fall down.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Or like a cactus, this is the green one.
Yeah. On the head.
Keep scaring them.
Oh, just inform.
Thanks. Well, all the best.
Nice. Well, good luck making it back.
Don't die.
Yeah.
See ya. What were we talking about? I can't remember where we were.
Mountains.
Mountains. Yeah, so the big shift for you was going from like, I guess like bars and stuff like that, right? Or like sort of, let's just call it fake food if we're calling.
Yeah, what is
everything else
gels?
real.
Like they
Gels,
are scientifically made to be like very digestible and bypass the stomach and all of these
Yes.
things. But like honestly, for me, it's taken me just 5 years to figure that out, that it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that was vindicated about 4 weeks ago when I just ran 60k in Sintra by myself, and like super easy over 9 hours, and there was just no issues whatsoever. And I just felt like I was flying, and I was just had my little rice tubes, and I had my drink mix, and I was like seeing Morgan every like couple hours, and I'm just very excited to give it a go tomorrow. Obviously it's a completely different kettle of fish when you're like 15-20 hours in, but you know, like I said, we're enough already. So
Do you think there's an element of like feeling calm, like going into it feeling calmer as well? Because I think we discussed before the possibility that a lot of this was psychological. I mean, it's definitely a part of it will be psychological. But do you feel like calmer going into it?
No.
No. Okay.
I'm terrified.
Fair enough.
It's still scary.
Yes.
It's still 115 kilometers.
Yes. But what I mean is like because you've sort of got a bit of a solution to the nutrition side of things, you feel like you've dialed that in a little bit more. At least you're not worrying and panicking about that.
Yeah, there was definitely an element of fear going into last year when the trajectory was sort of going down, going into the next race, that maybe I was already like, I haven't done a massive amount different in this race. I was just kind of hoping for something. I was just hoping to get over it. But it ended up taking a complete 360 spin on how I really just approached running in general to actually get over it.
Yeah.
Vindicated by the 60k a few weeks ago, and yeah, so still terrified, but definitely not terrified of going to hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm also just much more aware of my body at this point. Like it will never get to that stage because I will make sure that it will stop before it gets to that stage anyway.
So we're just over 24 hours prior to starting. Yeah. Tomorrow it's a weird one because it starts at midnight.
Yeah.
We've discussed kind of briefly maybe some loose plans, but what is your pre-race Okay, so like from lunchtime tomorrow, what's the plan for the 12 hours before?
Honestly, I kind of hope to just restart my day at about 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have lunch. I'm gonna go to sleep, and I'm gonna like wake up at like 6 p.m. and then have breakfast.
Yeah, after a bad night's sleep.
After a bad night's sleep at about 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then at that point it's vibes, you know. The jitters and the things just kind of get you through. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I plan to have my pre-race beer at lunch.
Nice.
It's my little ritual. It just sort of calms the nerves, helps me to not take myself in it too seriously.
It's just calories at that point.
At that point, it's just calories. And then hydrate. And then I am planning just to have a massive meal, like a huge meal fairly early on. Not like so big that I feel ill, but like just a decent carby meal at like 2. And then I hope that the beer and the meal induces a food coma, and I will nap and actually like fall asleep. So I'm not great at daytime sleeping. Although recently I have actually started napping a bit, which is I've either become more lazy or
power naps they're legit.
Yeah, so I'm confident that I'll be able to get some kip in actually. And then from like 8 p.m. then it's just like get everything ready, make sure I've got all my gear set, and like you say, I mean, like my least favorite part is getting to the start line. I just like hate. I don't know. I like it in the sense that everyone's in the same boat, and so. But I do feel extremely nervous before, like right before the race. I feel extremely nervous, and then it's like this feeling of, it's just like a relief when you actually start. You're in it, and then you're like, it takes maybe half a kilometer, and then I'm like, okay, we're here now. And it's just a case, like you said earlier, we discussed this, like you're just in the moment, you're just doing the thing that you're doing at that time.
Yeah, it is wild because it can be like quite emotional when the build up to it, like you spend so many months basically just like by yourself preparing, and then you sort of get to the start line, and then you are sort of realizing that there's just like a bunch of other people. I was saying to Morgan earlier, it's a bit like, it feels like going to like a flat earth society meeting and then realizing like, oh my god, there are other crazy people. You know what, I'm not the only one, maybe I'm not crazy enough.
Well, I mean, I love it. I mean, like I love the whole vibe. I love the, as much as I hate it, I also love the sort of feeling, the anticipation, because it's such a big thing. Once
everyone's on the start line, because everyone is feeling the same way, and everyone knows they're about to do something epic, and it's just in this tiny pocket of an island. That is cool. And then
and I don't think I'll ever stop going on about like how beautiful it is here, but just the privilege that we have to go to a random island. Random in the sense that it's so far from everywhere else. Like, yes, it's a Portuguese island, but it's like as close to Morocco as anywhere else. And you're just like on this island running across it, and it's an organized event. Like, how privileged are we to be able to do this, right? So,
amen.
I mean, I'm always trying as much as I can to, at least it's like my additional metric now is how much I enjoy it and how much I manage to smile throughout. So like that's my aim. I know overall, like I don't really care all that much what happens as long as I get through it safe, injury free, and I'd like it not to rain. Because Mozart 100 sucked when it rained, and I'd like a nice clear view. You know.
Yeah, you want the views ultimately.
Yeah. Well, anyway, man, I think we should head back and not fall off this whatever it is, Levada. But good luck.
You too, dude. Let's go.
See you at the start line.
Let's do it. PB or A&E, am I right?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. That goes against everything.
Yeah.